What's up everybody, welcome back to another BTT Gaming video, and today we have another Master Duel deck profile, and it's honestly one of my favorites. It's a deck I actually played since I got back into the game because it was very accessible in the TCG, but we're going to try it out in Master Duel, and that is Gren Maju OTK. Now this is a very classic OTK deck that a lot of players, it's kind of like a fan favorite. The strategy is very simple. You banish a lot of cards, you summon Gren Maju to Iza, he has a lot of attack, and you swing for game. It's that simple. So that's kind of really the only game plan here, but there are a lot of good cards in this deck that help you get to that point. So obviously the point of this deck is to go second. You want to let your opponent maybe set up their board, you might have some interaction on their turn a little bit, depending on what your hand looks like. But then you want to find ways to just completely clear it out and then swing for game with your big monsters that are easy to summon or you can get access to, and there's a lot of different ways to boost their attack. So let's kind of go through the card by card here. First, we have two Eater of Millions. Now, Eater of Millions isn't going to kind of be your win condition on its own. It can be, it's an annoying card to deal with because it can banish your opponent's monsters, but the big thing Eater of Millions is doing is banishing a ton of cards, at least 5, to special summon it. Now, you can banish your entire extra deck, which, by the way, you don't really need your extra deck that much in this strategy. All you really need it for is to banish it, and that'll give Eater of Millions a lot of attack, but that'll also set up your banish pile for your Gren Maju. And again, he's kind of difficult to deal with. He banishes monsters when he battles them. So Eater of Millions, a very, very good card in this deck. We have Maxi, obviously, best card in the game. Maxi can be a little tricky in this deck, depending on where you're at in the game. Like, if you're running low on cards because you've banished so many, Maxi might be a risk. But it's never really a bad thing to open with Maxi. So the card's still very, very good, obviously, so I figured we might as well include it, right? Because it's just that good. Next we have the main boss monster of the deck, which is Gren Maju to Iza. The effect is very simple. This card's attack and defense become equal to the number of your banished cards times 400. And this deck banishes a lot of cards, so it's not hard to get his attack to be really, really high. The obvious downside here is that he doesn't have any protection. He doesn't have any built-in protection, and there's not a lot of cards in the deck that just protect this guy. The thing about this deck in general is that you kind of just need to go for it. Alright, you don't really need to get too cute. It's very glass cannon in that way. But like I said, it's really, really fun, and he's your main guy. He can get up to the tens of thousands of attack points and just swing for game out of nowhere, and your opponent never sees it coming. That's what's really, really fun about this deck. Next we have Ash Blossom, just to cut off some plays for your opponent. We have Dimension Shifter, which is very good in this deck. The more you limit your opponent's plays, the better. Plus, you also want to be banishing cards in this deck, so Dimension Shifter is a 3-of staple in this strategy for sure. We also have Gameciel, Kaiju. It's always helpful having a Kaiju in a deck like this, just in case you have a monster on your opponent's field that can't be targeted or anything like that. You can just get it out of the way. If you want to run more Kaijus, that's up to you. Next, we have the Danger monsters. We have Danger Bigfoot and Danger Thunderbird. These guys are nice because they're big bodies that can get onto the field. They're also cards that can draw you stuff. It's important to draw in this deck to get access to your big boss monsters. Plus they have other effects, like Danger Bigfoot can destroy a monster if it gets discarded, obviously per its effect. And if Thunderbird gets discarded, you can target and destroy a set card your opponent controls. So the danger monsters are very good. Plus, again, if you're under D-Shifter or D-Fissure, then certain cards that get discarded can get banished. That further pump up your Gren Maju. So the Danger Bigfoot and Danger Thunderbird package, very, very helpful in this deck. Next we have Gizmek Orochi. So the thing about Gizmek Orochi is this card has a quick effect, so you can do this on your opponent's turn, is banish 8 cards from the top of your deck, face down by the way, that's important, and special summon them. And then when your turn rolls around, it can pop an opponent's monster, and then this effect can also activate from the grave, the banishing effect. So after your turn, if you pop an opponent's monster, or your opponent gets rid of the Gizmek, you can activate it again to banish more cards and special summon them. So this effect activates in your hand or in the grave. This card is so important in this deck. It's one of the few instances of consistency the deck actually has, and getting a body on board, especially if you're not able to OTK your first turn, can really save you games. So this is a must include 3 of in this deck, in my opinion. So those are the monsters. Next, we have 3 Dark Hole. Now what's really funny about Dark Hole is, yes, it destroys all monsters, yours and your opponents, but the thing is, your monsters getting destroyed isn't the biggest deal in the world. Again, you can combo Dark Hole with a card like Gizmek Orochi, so on the next turn, you can activate, or your turn, depending on when you activate it, you can activate the Orochi effect again to banish, plus it gets rid of your opponent's monsters and can set up game-winning plays. Dark Hole actually works very well in this deck. We have 2 Raigeki and Master Duel, you can run it at 2, and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Next, we have probably one of the best cards in this deck, which is Pot of Desires. And yes, the draw 2 is good, but also the banishing 10 is also very good. That's what's really cool about this. So if you're banishing 10 cards off of Pot of Desires, and 8 cards off of your Gizmek, and a ton of cards off your Eater of Millions, that is one big Gren Maju that can just take for game. So 3 Pot of Desires is definitely required in this deck. We have 2 Lightning Storm as more back row or monster removal. We have 3 Dimensional Fissure, now at 3 in the TCG, but it's been at 3 here in Master Duel. Again, this card is very annoying for your opponent to deal with, especially given the matchup. And then we have 2 Twin Twister for more back row removal, plus the potential of banishing another card that you discard if you're under D Fissure or D Shifter. The extra deck doesn't matter all that much, as I just put like a bunch of rank 8s and rank 3s in there. There's Zeus. Your goal is to bash all of these cards using your Eater of Millions to further fill up the banish pile. So that is the deck. We're going to take a look at some replays and we're going to see how this deck performs. So let's take a look. Alright, so here we go. We have our first replay here with Gren Maju. Again, the name of the game is Trying to Go Second, and this is not a bad hand. Maxi in the opener is pretty good, so is Ash. Our opponent is playing Branded Despia, so we're going to Max C this, so maybe we'll get some cards off of this as they activate the Shrouded Dragon from hand. So then they are going to summon Aluber, activate Aluber. We're going to Ash Blossom to try to limit the amount of play that they can get. And Ash Blossom will resolve, Aluber gets negated, and unfortunately they still have Branded Fusion. Alright, so they're still going to have a pretty impressive board here. They're going to get the Albion, and then they're going to activate the Albion. We get our draw wheel, we get our Gizmek Orochi, which is really good. Really helpful. We're going to activate that, banish 8 cards from the top. So we're going to special summon our Gizmek Orochi from the hand. By its effect, they're going to resolve their Albion, and they are going to summon, after they banish their cards, their Lubellion, the Searing Dragon. Typical branded stuff here. We have our Gamma Seal, which is pretty good, and our opponent's still making plays, and they get their Mirror Jade. So they're going to get rid of our Gizmek here, but this isn't the worst thing for us because we do have a Lightning Storm, which is good. So not a bad board. Now let's see what we can respond with. We get Eater of Millions, which is good. Activate Lightning Storm and get rid of their board. They're going to activate Mirror Jade, but I have a feeling that's not going to matter. we're going to bash our entire extra deck for Eater of Millions. Activate Danger Bigfoot. They're going to Ash it, but Danger Bigfoot is not once per turn. It can activate again. So Ash is going to resolve. Bigfoot's going to negate. We're just going to activate it again. They pick the Gamma Seal from the hand by random. We summon the Danger Bigfoot. We draw a card, which is a Raigeki. Activate the Thunderbird. Discard the Dark Hole. And draw again another Bigfoot. They discard, but we don't really need anyway, because that's going to be game. Didn't even need to summon Gren Maju to win this one. And here we go with our next duel, using Gren Maju, and we'll see how this goes. So we do have our Gren Maju in our hand, which is good. We also have our Gizmek Orochi. We also have our Max C, but our opponent activates Heat Wave. Not really sure what's happening here, but we can't normal or special summon. So we chain the Orochi to that before it resolves, so we can at least special summon that, and we get our banishes in. And our opponent is just going to set one and pass. Interesting. So we have a D shifter. We're going to activate Dark Hole, and we do this for a very specific reason. We activate Dark Hole because we get the Orochi back in the grave, so then we can activate it again from the grave during our opponent's turn. And they're playing Adamantipator, so this should be interesting. So we bash 8 more cards, special summon our Orochi, and our opponent is going to go full Adamantipator combo here. They have the Crystal Leonite and Adamantipator Seeker, and they're just going to go off here. Gallic Granite is going to be summoned, activate Granite's effect, add a rock monster. They're going to get their Researcher and typical Adamantipator stuff here. But we're still in a pretty good spot right now. It doesn't seem like we're going to die yet. So they're going to pick from their deck after they lay on top, and they're going to make their Naturia Beast, which is kind of a pain if we end up drawing like a Pod Desires or a Raigeki. Naturia Beast can just negate it, but we're still not in a bad spot. Besides, the Pod Desires, I think, can still bash the 10 for cost. So they summon their Union Carrier, and they are going to be able to swing over our Gizmek Orochi once they get to the battle phase, and they do. We're going to take some damage here, but I do think we're still in a pretty good spot once they see next turn. So we're going to activate our Gizmek Orochi, bash 8 more cards. We have banished a ton of cards that, and summon our Gren Maju at 9,600, and boom, right on the Union Carrier. Didn't see it coming. Gizmek Orochi really helped us out there. We take the win against Adamantipator. And here we go with our final replay. And we're going to see how Gren Maju does going first. We actually lost the coin toss. Our opponent made us go first, but it's not a bad going first hand, all things considered. Activate the Orochi, banish 8. We're going to chain Dimension Shifter, so our opponent will be under that. And that is going to resolve. We're then going to special summon the Orochi, activate Pod Desires, bash 10 more cards. We have 18 bashed already. We get a Gren Maju off to draw, and this might be a quick one. They have Rhoda. We're going to negate that with Ash Blossom, and that's going to resolve. And again, our opponent is under D Shifter, so this might be a problem for them. Yes, it is. They're playing Hero, so they're not going to get a lot of these graveyard effects. Activate Vion. They have Super Poly, which is kind of annoying, but I still think we're in a pretty good spot here. That's obviously going to resolve. They're going to summon their Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. They're going to get in for some damage here, but again, I think we're in probably a pretty good spot. We draw another Desires. We're going to activate it to bash 10 more cards for good measure. We're going to draw them. We have a Dark Hole off the top, and we're going to Dark Hole their board, and we're going to summon Gren Maju for 12,400 attack right in the face, and we take the win here against the Heroes. Going first, I know that. Alright, well, there you have it, and this deck is just a lot of fun, and what's really cool about this deck is in Master Duel, in a best of one format that Master Duel is, it can really catch your opponent off guard. You don't really see it coming, and that's what makes it really fun. You know, beefing up Gren Maju to like 10, 11, 12,000, and then just bodying your opponent in one swing, it feels really good. There's obvious cons to this deck. It can brick at times, obviously, especially depending on the game state, and plus it's just very glass cannon. Like, you really just need to just make the push to go for game, and if your opponent interacts with it in an annoying way, because like I said, there's not a ton of protection in this deck, then you're probably not winning the game, which sucks. But you know, it is what it is. This is this is one of those decks that is really good in a best of one format because your opponent doesn't see it coming, and they can set up this big board, and it might not even matter because all you have to do is just banish a bunch of cards with Desires or Eater and summon your Gren Maju, and then boom, you win. And Dark Hole, funny enough, is a pretty annoying card for your opponent as well. So just a fun deck to play here in Master Duel. What's also nice too is, like, it's not the most expensive deck in the world. Like, yeah, you have your UR staples like Maxi and Ash, and D-Shifter, and Gizmek. You know, there's a couple URs, but there's a lot of SRs and under. So it all depends on what you consider cheap, but you know, there are a lot of URs, but you can replace some of these URs with other cards too. But that being said, I love this deck. I've been playing it a lot. It's been really funny. I hope you enjoyed the replays, and I hope you give this deck a shot as well. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want to try it out, and I hope to see you on the next one. Later.